Hello friends, I miss you so much today. Today is Wednesday, and that means this is our third day of missing school. And I woke up thinking about how when we walk in the mornings, let's see, it is 8:12 right now while I'm recording. So we would be coming into school and starting our morning activities at the table, and then coming to the carpet and seeing who all is here today. And whenever we're missing children, we put them in our little heart on the board and we start to sing our song to wish them well. And none of us are at school today, so I wish you well, I wish you well. My friends are not here today, but I wish you well. I wish you all well, everyone that is stuck in the house, missing school or missing work, or just missing the opportunity to see your friends and family while we are under quarantine. So today I've just pulled some fun books. I don't really have a theme, but these are books that are cute and fun to read. The first one I remember from when I was a little girl, and I've read it many times over my 10 years of teaching. And it's just a fun book about a little girl who's learning to just love being herself. And it's called Ruby the Copycat. It is written by Peggy Rathman. And when we look at the cover art, we see two little girls at the board. And they have on, looks like the same outfit. But let's see, Ruby's looks a little different. I see some safety pins on hers. Let's see what it's about. There's our cover page, our title page. Ruby the Copycat by Peggy Rathman. Monday was Ruby's first day in Miss Hart's class. Class, this is Ruby, announced Miss Hart. Ruby, you may use the empty desk behind Angela. Angela is the girl with the pretty red bow in her hair. Angela smiled at Ruby. Ruby smiled at Angela's bow and tiptoed to her seat. I hope everyone had a pleasant weekend, said Miss Hart. Does anyone have something to share? I was the flower girl at my sister's wedding, said Angela. That's exciting, said Miss Hart. Ruby raised her hand halfway. I was the flower girl at my sister's wedding, too. What a coincidence, said Miss Hart. Angela turned and smiled at Ruby. Ruby smiled at the top of Angela's head. Class, please take out your reading books, said Miss Hart. At lunchtime, Ruby hopped all the way home on one foot. When Ruby came back to school, she was wearing a red bow in her hair too. She slid into her seat behind Angela. I like your bow, whispered Angela. I like yours too, whispered Ruby. Class, please take out your math books, said Miss Hart. On Tuesday morning, Angela wore a sweater with daisies on it. At lunchtime, Ruby hopped home sideways. When Ruby came back to school after lunch, she was wearing a sweater with daisies on it. I like your sweater, whispered Angela. I like yours too, whispered Ruby. There's the cover art. It looks just like the front of the book. Oh, wonder what they're doing. They're working out math problems. Looks like Ruby might be copying Angela's answer. On Wednesday, Angela wore a hand-painted t-shirt with matching sneakers. After lunch, Ruby hopped back to school wearing a hand-painted t-shirt with matching sneakers. "Why are you sitting like that?" whispered Angela. "Wet paint," said Ruby. Uh-oh. So Ruby must have gone straight home and painted her own outfit. Uh-oh. On Thursday morning during sharing time, Angela modeled the flower girl dress she wore at her sister's wedding. Ruby modeled her flower girl dress too, right after lunch. Angela didn't whisper anything. How does Angela look? Not so happy. By coincidence, on Friday morning, both girls wore red and lavender striped dresses. At lunchtime, Angela raced home. When Angela came back to school, she was wearing black. She looks sad. On Friday afternoon, Miss Hart asked everyone to write a short poem. "Who would like to read first?" asked Miss Hart. Angela raised her hand. She stood by her desk and read, "I had a cat I could not see, because it stayed in back of me. It was a very loyal pet. It's sad we never really met." That was very good, said Miss Hart. "Now, who's next?" Miss Hart looked around the room. Ruby? Ruby stood and recited slowly. "I had a nice pet who I never met because it always stayed behind me, and I'm sure it was a cat too." That sounded a lot like Angela's poem. Ruby smiled at the back of Angela's head. Someone whispered. Ruby sat down. "What a coincidence," murmured Miss Hart. Look at Miss Hart. I think she's even noticed that Ruby is copying everything Angela does. Angela scribbled something on a piece of paper. She passed it to Ruby. The note said, "You copied me. I'm telling Miss Hart. P.S. I hate your hair like that, or your hair that way." That wasn't very nice. Angela seems very upset, but that wasn't a nice thing to say. Ruby buried her chin in the collar of her blouse. A big tear rolled down her nose and plopped onto the note. When the bell rang, Miss Hart sent everyone home except Ruby. Both girls are very hurt now. Miss Hart closed the door of the classroom and sat on the edge of Ruby's desk. "Ruby, dear," she said gently, "you don't need to copy everything Angela does. You can be anything you want to be, but be Ruby first. I like Ruby." Miss Hart smiled at Ruby. Ruby smiled at Miss Hart's beautiful, polished fingernails. Have a nice weekend, said Miss Hart. Have a nice weekend, said Ruby. Ooh, I wonder what Ruby will do. On Monday morning, Miss Hart said, I hope everyone had a pleasant weekend. I did. I went to the opera. Miss Hart looked around the room. Does anyone have something to share? Ruby waved her hand. Glued to every finger was a pink plastic fingernail. I went to the opera too, said Ruby. She did not, whispered Angela. Oh my. Ruby copied Miss Hart's fingernails. Miss Hart folded her hands and looked very serious. Ruby, dear, said Miss Hart gently, did you do anything else this weekend? Ruby peeled off a fingernail. I hopped, said Ruby. The class giggled. Ruby's ears turned red. She was embarrassed. But I did. I hopped around the picnic table 10 times. Ruby looked around the room. Watch. Ruby sprang from her desk. She hopped forwards. She hopped backwards. She hopped sideways with both eyes shut. The class cheered and clapped their hands to the beat of Ruby's feet. Ruby was the best hopper they have ever seen. Miss Hart turned on the tape player and said, follow the leader. Do the Ruby hop. So Ruby led the class around the room while everybody copied her. There we go. And at noon, Ruby and Angela hopped home for lunch. There we go. All right, my loves. So, Ruby might have been a copycat in the beginning. She wanted to be like Angela and Miss Hart. She wanted to be like everybody else, but she needed to just be Ruby because Ruby was wonderful, all on her own. All right, I hope to see you soon, and I love you very much. Goodbye.